This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Kuderdami welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy, and this birthday boy is very prominent indeed. The picture of him is of one of his greatest moments as a Calgary Flame, one of the biggest celebrations of a hockey player in history. Now, when I found out this guy was on my radar for June 29th, I completely forgot that he was indigenous. So basically, yeah, and in the wake of Canada having the crisis with how they really were with the indigenous people with the residential schools and all that, this guy perfectly encapsulates everything going on. So anyway, this is Theo Fleury. He is 53 years old and was born in Oxbow, Saskatchewan. He played for Calgary, Colorado, the New York Rangers, and Chicago in the NHL. He even played in Finland for Tappara and in Ireland for Belfast. He was drafted by the Flames in the 8th round, 166 overall, and played over 1,000 games in the NHL between 89 and 03. He was one of the smallest players of his generation, only being 5'6". As a junior, he actually was in the famous punch-up in Pierre-Stani, which led to the disqualification of Canada and the Soviet Union in the World Junior in 1987. People thought he was unlikely to play in the NHL. Fleury would put up 1,000 points in his career, which was amazing, and win the Stanley Cup with the Flames in '89. Unfortunately, though, drug and alcohol addictions would ruin his NHL career later on. He wanted to come back with the Flames, but nothing doing. But he overcame his addictions, operated a concrete business, and actually marketed his own brand of clothing. He actually was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, or inflammable bowel syndrome, if you will. And Fleury would actually write a autobiography in which he was actually sexually abused by former coach Graham James and all that. Fleury's been an advocate for sexual abuse victims and has been a public speaker, and he helped the Aboriginal community. So anyway, Fleury is of Métis heritage, and his grandmother was Cree. So basically, Fleury was subject to racism for being Métis and all that. So anyway, Fleury described himself as a bully and all that, and would turn to hockey as an outlet to help him out. Fleury was actually raised as a Roman Catholic and attended Mass for a long time, and was an altar boy. Now, I know you can probably guess something fishy's happening with that, but that's not here, Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, anyway, Fleury would try to help out in the juniors. He played for Moose Jaw in 1985. And he did pretty good. He actually ended up tied for the Western Hockey League's #1 spot. For scoring. Anyway, he's 10th all-time in WHL scoring. Fleury was part of the punch-up in Pierre-Stani with that bench clearing brawl and all that. The funny thing is that Fleury actually told CBC in the first intermission that the boys are up for the gold medal. Everybody is so tense. Tempers are flying. It's really tough out there. It's so tense. And then, of course, the second period triple. All that. Fleury would help Canada play in the 1988 World Juniors and get redemption by winning the gold medal. Calgary drafted him in the 8th round. All that. And then he went to the Calgary Flames system. Unfortunately, he was 20 pounds overweight at training camp for Calgary and was assigned back to Salt Lake. But he got better and all that. He would be recalled New Year's Day 1989. He would score 3 assists in his second career NHL game against the Kings. and then his first NHL goal scored against the hated Oilers. He would actually score 11 points in the 1989 playoffs, helping Calgary win the Stanley Cup against all odds and giving Lanny McDonald his cup. Fleury broke out as a player in 91, scoring 51 goals and 104 points to help the Flames out. Fleury scored one of the most famous goals in celebrations in history in Game 6 against the Oilers in the first round of the playoffs. Chris Cuthbert called it. Messier gives it away. Here's Fleury looking for his first goal of the series. Scores! Then Fleury does his little sliding on his knees thing. And Fleury and the Flames are in 7th heaven. That was amazing. Unfortunately for Calgary, they lost Game 7 on home turf to Esa Tikkänen's overtime goal. Fleury did okay and all that. He actually set a franchise record in 1993 by having a plus-minus of 9. If you don't know what plus-minus is, basically, if you're on the ice when your team scores, you get a plus next year. Otherwise, if you're on the ice when your team gives up a goal, that's a minus. So basically, you want to be a plus more so. So anyway, Fleury would play in Tapara while the 95 lockout happened, but he came back. Fleury got a 5-year deal with the Flames. The problem was he had much of a stomach ailment, but then he was released. He released the statement that he had been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and the doctors gave him the correct medication. And he helped Calgary do well. Fleury was named interim captain after June29 refused to play for Calgary. And then Nieuwendyk was traded to Dallas in December of 95 for Jerome McGimmel, among others. Fleury was reluctant to assume the captaincy, but he decided to relinquish it because he thought it was harming his play. So anyway, the Flames had troubles and all that. Fleury was Calgary's best player and all that. But Calgary just kept missing the playoffs and all that. He would actually be the franchise scoring leader, on February 19th, 1999, with his 823rd point. And it wasn't broken until Jerome McGill in 2009. The Flames, unfortunately, were struggling and decided to trade him before free agency. He was traded February 28th to Colorado for Rene Corbet, Wade Belak, and Robin Regehr. This trade actually worked out, as Regehr was the heart and soul for the Flames for a while. The fans were stunned and all that. The Fleury trade actually was viewed as another sign that small market Canadian teams could not compete in the NHL and all that. Economics of hockey changed so much, the Flames had to deal with their top player, despite not being that far out of a playoff spot. And the Flames didn't want a chance losing him without getting anything in return because, he was a free agent. Fleury got loud cheers and all that. He helped Colorado do well in the 99 playoffs until Dallas got them in the conference finals. The Avalanche said, no way, we're not going to resign you. So he joined the Rangers on a 3-year contract. He got Calgary's fans in an up tiff when he basically said he was underappreciated in Calgary. However, the comments were meant for the owners, not for the fans. Anyway, Fleury didn't do that well. He only scored 15 goals, one of his worst performances. After the season, he decided to go into a league-operated program that treats substance abuse and emotional problems. Fleury would rebound. Fleury was doing pretty well for himself, but he had to enter the substance abuse program again. Basically, his season was done for. And unfortunately, he struggled. The 2002 season was not his best point with substance abuse and adapting to life in Manhattan. He played every game in 2002, but his problems affected his behavior on the ice. After getting a game misconduct against the Sharks, he confronted the Sharks mascot, reportedly breaking the rib of the mascot. After taking a penalty against the Penguins one time, he decided to leave the arena rather than skate to the penalty box. He was stressed, everything. Fleury was not too happy with the league officials and all of that. Fleury's playing rights went to San Jose. And then he went to Chicago for a 2-year, $8.5 million contract. But the NHL suspended him for violating the terms of his substance abuse program. The Blackhawks would hire one of Fleury's friends to make sure he got into meetings and all that. He missed the first 2 months of the season before being reinstated. But he got in a drunken brawl at a strip club, and basically, it was terrible. He was not suspended, but the incident contributed to the Blackhawks collapsing. Basically, the substance abuse program would ruin him, and he retired. Then he decided to go to, well, he joined his cousin Todd Holt and some former NHL players to play for Horse Lake of the North Peace Hockey League for the Allen Cup. He was hoping to serve as a role model for the First Nation. The NHL and the NHLPA told Hockey Alberta that he was a free agent and was not locked out. So he helped out. Fleury would be embroiled in controversy in the 2005 Allen Cup because Horse Lake was accused of paying players despite being an amateur team. And Fleury denied rumors he was paid $100,000. Fleury won the gold medal for Canada and threatened to return it because he thought it was racist and all that. So the prejudice and all that. So then he would play for Belfast in the Elite Hockey League. But Fleury would have issues with officials, which meant he couldn't come back to Belfast. So he joined Steinbach to try to win the Allen Cup and all that. But they lost the semis again. He wanted to try. He was technically still suspended. So he was trying to get back and all that. He was reinstated in September 2009. And he had a tryout offer. He wanted to prove to everyone he could be in the NHL. However, a lot of people said that he had to join he was trying to play because he was trying to play to deal with his child support payments and the failure of his concrete business. So basically, he tried his best, but he was released by the Flames and he decided to retire. So he did. Internationally, he helped Canada out, winning the 1988 World Juniors. He was part of the Canada Cup team in '91, which I did not know that. He would play in the '96 World Cup of Hockey, and he would be part of the gold medal team in 2002. All that. It was amazing, all that. The invitation was controversial because of his substance abuse problems. But Fleury knew that he couldn't ruin his reputation, so he basically refrained from drinking or taking drugs. Unfortunately, Fleury would have these demons, but he credits his second wife Jennifer for turning him around. And basically, she helped him quit drugs and drinking. September 2005. Fleury has a son who was born to his high school girlfriend, who he never married. Fleury has a son and daughter with his first wife, and then has a daughter, so he has 4 kids. Fleury actually joined a group as a minority, joined a group which followed Graham James, Joe Sakic, and Brett the Hitman Hart as a minority owner of the expansion Calgary Hitmen of the Western Hockey League. He would sell his share of the Hitmen to the Flames because of James's conviction for sexually abusing Sheldon Kennedy and another player. All that. He would operate a concrete business, but it was closed in 2009. Fleury would play in the Golden Baseball League for a couple of games and all that. So he ran a hockey school that ran for many years. Part of Crohn's disease too. His autobiography was huge. In 2009, saying that he was abused by Graham James for a period of 2 years. He didn't want to be the poster boy for abuse by Graham James. He said that speaking up might make it easier for other sexual abuse victims to come forward and get help. He blamed the abuse for turning him into an alcoholic and almost committed suicide. His problems was that he spent his income on alcohol, drugs, gambling, women, and basically he couldn't pass a drug test with the Rangers. It was basically a top seller and all that. It was amazing. So basically, Fleury decides to press charges against Graham James and all that. Now, Graham James did go to jail for 2 years, and that was terrible. I think a couple years later, Graham James was arrested again for something, and he was in jail longer. I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah. So, yeah. So his final stats: 1,088 points in 1,084 games in the NHL. So yeah, about he was basically Calgary's only representative for a long time in the All-Star games. And he won the Stanley Cup. And he's won a few awards for by the Aboriginal societies. So he's helping out the Aboriginal community. I think that's great, don't you think? Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.